Hello everybody, Professor William Watkin here, and today I'm going to talk about a topic, what we learned from Cambridge Analytica, really. So ever since it was revealed that Cambridge Analytica had taken data from 87 million users via a Facebook app that exploited the social media site's privacy settings, it's been suggested that anything from Donald Trump's election in the US to the European Union referendum result in the UK could have been the result of the persuasive power of targeted ads based on voter preferences. But Alexander Kogan, the researcher whose data gathering app formed the basis of Cambridge Analytica's subsequent work for various political groups, appeared to pour cold water on this idea about 6 months ago when speaking to a US Senate committee. The data is entirely ineffective, he said. If the goal of Cambridge Analytica was to show personalised advertisements on Facebook, he went on, then what they did was stupid. Even if the boasts by former Cambridge Analytica CEO Alexander Nix and the statements of whistleblower Christopher Wiley of the company's influence are a little bit overblown, as Kogan claims, the firm nevertheless hit on something with its approach of harvesting private personal data in order to influence voter behaviour. And even if their model does not yet work fully, if you look at it close enough, you get a pretty accurate picture of the paradoxical contemporary sense of what I call our neo-privacy. The main issue, I think, is our misunderstanding of consent. Kogan's data scrape may have been unethical, but he didn't steal the data from those that used his app. They gave it willingly. When you use a social media platform, you by definition are publishing your private life. More so, you effectively sell your private life on an open market through giving your consent for it to be monetized by that platform. Following admissions by Facebook Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg, we now know that online privacy settings exist only as a means to allow Facebook users to believe they have a consumer's right to privacy, when in fact they're not the consumer, but the product itself. If privatisation is a process of transferring ownership from the public to the private realm, this means privacy itself has been privatised. You publish your data, making it public, so that private companies can capitalise on what this data says about you by selling you things, so that you can have access to a highly sophisticated platform, Facebook, which costs a shed load of money to keep going, without having to pay for it, because you have already paid by giving Facebook access to your private life. Which means you are the product. Your privacy published is the income generator. The one thing that makes you you is actually what changes you from human consumer to inhuman data. Scary, isn't it? This financial model leads to the paradoxical situation I'm calling neo-privacy, following neoliberalism's similar disregard for and yet exploitation of the private individual. In a neo-private world, privacy exists to be exploited financially. The neo-private individual both values their personal life so much that they publish it, yet is so neglectful of their privacy that, well, they publish it. Cambridge Analytica's stroke of genius was to combine two different kinds of data sets, let's call them deep and broad, to capitalise on this burgeoning sense of neo-privacy. The deep psychometric tests of a small sample taken from Kogan's app were combined with the broad online behaviour of a massive sample, about 87 million. With this, they claimed they could predict people's behaviour simply by their actions on Facebook. The firm sold this to political campaigns and lobbyists as their, quote, secret weapon. This model shows a real understanding of social media by grounding it on people's actions on Facebook, what they click on, read and like, rather than their expressed statements. It's what you do that matters, not what you say. Typically deep, expert research generates the evidence that informs policies, but data-driven governance appears increasingly disassociated from ordinary lives, with voters preferring crowd-pleasing factoids when it comes to major decisions. Indeed, suspicion of experts may even be a contributing factor in the rise of what could be called a democracy and fake news. In contrast, broad data is generated by people based on what they choose to do, not what an expert has asked them or prompted them to say. Neo-private individuals feel a sense of ownership and investment when they share something on Facebook or Instagram, precisely because they've chosen to share personal, important, unique and private data. In effect, they're sharing their sense of self and individuality, and what could be more important to the modern soul than that? Yet the odd thing is, as we said, this neo-privacy is a contradiction. It is a published privacy. And it's also based on a misconception of consent. We think when we publish pictures of our kids in Santa's grotto that we've given our consent for them to be shared, and we tick a little box. We appear not to think that we've given our consent for these images to also be sold. But the fact of the matter is, as Sandberg said, sharing is selling, at least online. Perhaps the final most astounding result of this neo-privacy is that the very thing that is the origin of the value of our privacy, our subjective, special, rights-enriched, agency-performing millennial selves, is the product. When you share something private online, you transform yourself, according to Facebook's business model, from a consumer with rights, a subject if you will, to just an object with a monetary value. You go into the Facebook grotto, telling Santa your inner desires, all those toys you crave. But thanks to the magic of those Silicon Valley elves, you exit the grotto on the other side, having become the toy, the object, the desires of Santa Claus himself. I wonder if that's why so many kids find Saint Nick just a little bit frightening. Think of it like Pinocchio or Hoffman's famous Sandman, but in reverse. This is the new uncanny. Not that of puppets that become human, but humans that willingly become marionettes, allowing big tech firms and shady third parties to pull their privacy strings for financial gain. Thanks everybody, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you're interested in more of the same, why not subscribe to my channel or check out one of those links along the bottom of the screen.